Daf Gimel Rav, right?
Huh? If you're around, you're going to have the afternoon class this summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Daf Gimel Rav. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines to the top. Rabbi Yochanan Lo Amar Kain.
Which page were you?
Gimel Rav, page 5. Rabbi Yochanan Lo Amar Kain. Rabbi Yochanan did not say that Kalandis was the holiday of the changing of the seasons. You know, when other Rishon not changing seasons, right? When other Rishon realized days are getting longer. Ella, rather, Malchus Mitzrayim, Malchus Ram Yosim Milchama Elu Imelu. The Egyptian and Roman kingdoms were making a war with each other. They said, how long are we going to kill each other? It's a logical question, but most warring nations don't usually ask it, right? So how long are we going to kill each other in this fashion, in this fight? V'no is a very weird scenario, but let's make a takana. Any kingdom which tells its general, Pol al charbecha, fall on your sword and commit suicide, v'yishma law, and that general that kingdom will go ahead and fulfill this. Fulfill this mission, right? The Sartzava. What? The Sartzava Shlap. Right? What did I say?
No, it's not the nation falls on its sword.
Oh, did I say the nation? I meant the general. Sorry. For falling on the sword, Vishma law, and they'll listen. The general will listen. Titpos Amachus Tchila. They will take over the primacy in the world, basically. So the Mitzrayim lo Shamala. The Egyptians would not listen. They want to sacrifice their general. The Romi in Rome, Habataman Chad Gvar Sav. A certain old man who was, I guess, the general, the leader of the Roman armies, Bavashme Yanuvirus. His name was Janavirus, whatever, I don't know how you pronounce it in English. Favle Tracer B'nai, and he had 12 kids. Amalei, they said, it's hard to come by jobs for your kids when you have a large family, right? So they said, Amalei, they said to him, Shmalon, listen to us, commit suicide. Vanosim, but now, begin, Vanosim, when you make your children, Dukasin, Dukes, Vifarchin, and Istar Tulin, all sorts of different nobility. In other words, we'll provide for your kids after you're gone. Okay? He thought it was a good deal. Shamalon, he listened to them, and he committed suicide. Begin Cain, therefore Tzavchin Lei, they call this day Kalandas Yanuvirus, the holiday of Yanuvirus. Amar Min Yoim of the Basra.
Only right now, Yanuvirus sounds Jewish.
What?
Sounds like some European guy.
Okay. Obviously, I'm mispronouncing it. The next day after this Yontif of Kalandis Universe, Misablin Olay, they make an Avelus on him. They make a day of mourning on his death. And they call it Milane Imraya. And the Vilna Ephraim says that means a black day. Amrab Yuran Tudaria, Man Desar Tapuchim Bo Yema. Some of you plant lentils on that day, and the question which of those 2 days is that day. The Vilna Ephraim says on the day of Kalandas, the Romans say Lo Matzchin, won't be successful because lentils are the food of Avelim, right? And therefore they shouldn't be planted on that happy day, the day of Kalandas Yanavarius. Rav said Kalandas Asur Lakol. Nobody's allowed to you're not allowed to do trade with any guy on Kalandas. Rabbi Yochanan Ein Asur Elo Palchin Ba. It's only also to those who observe the day. Saturnalia, which is the Saturn holiday, Asur calls from to everybody. Again, Rabbi Yochanan Ben Kalandas Ben Saturnalia. Both of them Ein Asur Elo Palchin Ba. It's only also the people who observe the day. Literally, they worship on the day. Chevraya boy, the Chaverim either asked or stated. It's not clear from the context. Nosh the Palchin. The wives of those who observe this day, are they like the worshippers themselves, or are you allowed to do business with the wives? Rabbi Avo said, and again, it could be a query, but I think it's stated, Vada taxis the case right now. I didn't see any satisfactory translation of this term, so I'm just going to make up, what I think it means. Hada taxis the case, the ceremonial day of Caesar is like the municipal day. Became the sugya shamrin kapalchin, shemayin kapalchin, since there are a lot of people who make themselves look like they're worshiping the day or observing the day. Now they're not, It's like people who go make the barbecues on Memorial Day. They're not observing Memorial Day. They're having a good time, right? So, but there are a lot of people who pretend to be involved in this day. Taxes to Kesarim, and therefore hiyadah. It's the same thing, meaning that even the people who are not actively worshiping, if they are demonstrating themselves, if they're worshiping, they themselves are also to do. You also do business with them, but right, like Christmas, right? Same idea. Okay. But the question is, taxes to dukim, the municipal day in the city of Dukim. Tzricha, we don't know. We don't know Tzarichin. We don't know the status of that day, whether that day really, even the people who are, or Mardi Gras, another example, right? Mardi Gras, I think it's some original religious connotation.
Yeah, it is.
What? Yeah.
It's a certain number of days after Ash Wednesday.
It's just before Lent. It's the day before Lent.
The day before Lent.
Yeah. Does Mardi Gras mean Fat Tuesday or something like that, or is that different else?
Yeah, it is.
That's what it is?
That's the end of Mardi Gras.
That's the end of Mardi Gras?
They celebrate for a week or so.
Oh, it's a week. Okay. So anyway, so that's the idea. So that whether that's those types of holidays, whether the people who observe it are actually indulging in idolatry or collateral idolatry and so on and so forth. So in Kesar, yes, in taxes we don't know. Rabbi Shalche Rabbi Zira Diazmali Ozil Katan. Rabbi Bibi sent Rabbi Zira to buy him a small weave. Needs Saturnalia to Baisha. And you tell the Baisha they're making a Saturnalia. Asa Gabe Rabbi Yossi came by Rabbi Yossi. Sava Moraleka Hado. He thought he would pass for him like that. It should be the Rabbi Yochanan. Or Rabbi Yochanan. Who's Shari, who said it's permitted to go and buy stuff in the city as long as you're not buying from people who are involved in the yontif, right? However, you pass him called it should be the Rabbi Shimon Levi, and also, and Rabbi Shimon Levi doesn't appear in the Yerushalmi, but does appear in the Bavli in this context. And he's the one who says it's also to do trade, even those people who not apparently celebrating the holiday, because everybody in the city is considered part and parcel of celebration of the holiday. Okay? So you're going to go and buy that small weave. Rav Amar, Rav said, Kalandis. It's 8 days before the change of the season. Saturnalia, it's Lachat Kuvash Maniyam, it's 8 days after the change of the season, and we understand usually that means not the season, but rather the solstice. In other words, the winter solstice and the summer solstice, so these are the days before and after that. Says Mara, Rabbi Yochanan, it says here Prakto, but it says in the Aruch it should be Tropico, from the language of tropic. Now, there was a holiday called Tropic, which is Rosh Hashanah for the beginning of the season, which I assume is the season, the changing from fall from summer to fall and from spring to summer, or something like that. So that's what it's called Tropic. I don't really know, how the word tropic as it relates to the globe relates to the word tropic in Latin. Yeah, I know where it is. The tropic. So somehow it relates to the calendar, not just to where it is to a line on the globe. That's what it's saying here.
No, but there's also...
There's a Tropic of Capricorn and a Tropic of... What's the other one? Cancer, yeah.
Right, so...
But those are not calendar. I mean, obviously they're on the globe.
It's an astrological sign.
What?
It's an astrological.
No, they're latitudes.
No, they're latitudes.
Yeah.
They're the two major ones on either side of the equator.
Right.
But I think that it might be the angle of the sun.
Oh, that's right. That's a good point. Yeah, so you do the angle of the sun. That's right. Which is at the equinoxes.
Right.
It's seen in the tropic, right?
At the height of the summer, it's right directly upon the equator.
Yeah.
No, I mean...
No, not the height of the summer, no. If anything, on the equinox it's at the equator, no?
I don't remember anything from these...
Because at our summer it's on the winter down below, so it's not on the equator in the summer. So it's going to be in the equator on the tropic.
I'm trying to remember, there are three factors that produce the season. One is the tilt One is the tilt, one is the spin, and one is the rotation around the sun. The tilt wobbles back and forth on the cycle, like the angle.
But you're right. Somehow the sun travels between the tropics. That's how it works.
Yeah, I just don't.
It travels between the tropics. So the tropics should actually be the extremes. They should be to one tropic should be the change from winter to spring, and the other should be the change from from
Summer to fall.
well, it should be 6 months later. What's
Right.
summer to fall? Yeah, so those
It's
reasons.
winter right now in New Zealand, we're getting a crop of apples.
Right. So something like that. Okay, in any event. So be it as it may, it works out somehow. So that's called tropic. Okay? See, the truth is, that the people who espouse the theology of Torah Mada, right? We don't know Torah and we don't know Mada, we just don't know anything. That's our generation, right? Okay, we knew Mada, we can explain what tropics are, very Cornish. Okay. Right, Bob Hashem Ram said, Shlosha Zmanim, there are 3 times, there are 3 Yom Tovim Bavel, Shlosha Zmanim Modai, and 3 Yom Tovim Modai. Shlosha Zmanim Bavel, there are 3 Yom Tovim Mahuri v'Chanunei u'Ban Vasa. Shlosha Modai, the 3 Modai are Nusrade, Tiraiske, and Mahir Kana. Rabbi Shlomo B'Shem Nachum Bar Yaakov said, Narus. This is the ancient Persian New Year. Narus is Beves Adar B'Poros. This is on the 2nd day of Adar. Basrim Ba'adar Madar, the New Year in Modai is on the 20th day of Adar. Saturnalia. We darshan the word Saturnalia. Now, of course, the word Saturnalia comes from Saturn, right? But we darshan it in our language. Sina Tamuna, hatred is hidden. Sone Nokem, the enemy takes revenge and bears grudges. As you say, Vayistam Esav is Yaakov. Esav detests Yaakov, and Saturnalia is the holiday of Esav. Says in Romi they call it Santoria. And I don't know if Esav is, Esav I think looks like it's a typo here, but Santoria has something to do with the Senate. Senators. I don't know exactly, like the holiday of the senators must have been the time of Saturnalia. Right, the Romans had senators, that's where the term comes from. So somehow they called it Santoria. I guess it's a holiday of some sort of senators. Don't ask me. Rabbi Levi said, a well-known Garati Yom Shin in the Schatin Shlomo of Paro, the day Shlomo married the family of Paro, the word Nechei is superfluous. By a script line, yes. Vikartusis, what's Kartusis? Yom Shetafsabo Romi Malchus. The day when the Romans took over the kingship. Look, Fartanisa, then we already learned that was Kalandas. Says the war, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Bun, Pamshniya. Second time around, they grabbed the kingship on Kartusis. Rabbi Levi, Yom Shishchati Shlomo Paro Melch Mitzrayim. On the day that Shlomo became wedded to Paro, the king of Egypt, Yorad Michael came down. It's going to be and he stuck a stick into the sea. Vela shalatut, and it got like a what's the word? A sandbar there. And there grew a great forest. V'zeu Krakor Shabromi, that's the place where the great city of Rome grew. Yom Shehemid the Ravam Shenei Gleizov, and they the Ravam set up two golden calves. Bo Ramitz Romilus, where I think they're Remus and Romilus and Romulus and Remus. Okay. Uvadosh Neitzim Romi, they built 2 shacks in Rome. Yom Sheistalpo Elio, the day Elio Hanavi, the went up to Shamayim. Uamad Melech Rome is the first king in Rome. Melech Ein Be'edom Nitzamelech, it says before that there was no king in Edom as king. Okay, Yom Genusa Shamalachim. Now, we mentioned the Yom Genusa Shamalachim, which in the Bible it says it's Coronation Day. The question is what the Yerushalmi holds. So Yerushalmi brings proof. Ahiba Yom Hashlishi Yom Uledes is Paro. The 3rd day, the day of Paro's birthday. So from this, most of the Achronim learned that the Bible, the Yerushalmi holds that Yom Genusa is actually a birthday. But that makes it very difficult because in the Mishnah it said Yom Genusa and Yom Leda right? So it's two separate things, right? So if you look on the Gilin Ephraim here, it's a fascinating Gilin Ephraim. Talk about Torah Mada. He goes through all the Latin words here. You see those on the bottom in the Gilin Ephraim. You have actually Nukudos on page 6 on Gimel base. You don't have a Gilin Ephraim? Do you see the Gilin Ephraim on the bottom? See all those words which are vowelized, right? Because he goes through the Latin Genesius, right, which means Genesis. Right, I'm mispronouncing it, but Genesis. And then he says Genius, and Genius means an angel. So he wants to say that the Goyim, and even there's some sources in Judaism which say this, that whenever a person is born, there's a malach who's born with him. It's fairy godfather, or fairy godmother.
This is a Jewish concept?
Yeah, he says not necessarily. He says that. Yeah, he brings out that there's some chazal like this as well. Other mitzvah mazel. If you take a look at the bottom first column, you'll find top of second column. Other mitzvah mazel perish Rashi b'Shabbos malach shelo meilut shelo. So he says everybody used to celebrate their birthday because they got a malach then. Besides that, each nation has a malach. And that also is something which we share in common, that belief with Goyim Lahavdil, obviously. So he says, why did it say Pasuk Yom Uledes is Paro? Why did it say Yom Leidas Paro? So it says Yom Uledes is Paro because in order to express the thought that something was born with Paro. Es means together with. What was born together with Paro is guardian angel, right? So they hold also that when a king is coronated, he gets a new guardian angel, which has to do with the angel of the entire country. So that's they say. It says when the proof of Yom Uledes is Paro, says Gilin Ephraim, it's not saying that when in the Mishnah it says Yom Ginusya of a king, it's the day in which he was born, but rather Yom Ginusya means the day he gets a new spirit, right? Not his genesis, but the day of his new spirit. It must be the word genie. Actually, is related also to.
Sure, it's the same root.
Yeah, genie, and genius probably is like Ruach HaKodesh. I never thought about that before. Mr. Zuger, know anything about Latin?
Genius doesn't come from like genus,
What?
as in type.
What?
A genus.
Commentaries, I would stop second year.
Anyway, I'm assuming that's like what it means, like a Ruach, because that's what he says here. The genius is this Ruach HaMalach. That's what it says here. How come you don't know Latin? You're a lawyer. You have to know some Latin. Yeah.
In law school, contracts teacher said to us, they learn a little Latin so you can charge your client more. That's all.
Okay. Well, next time you get a client, just read the Gilin Ephraim. Anyway, so that's what you have to say, that because Yom Ginusya means the day in which the king acquired a new spirit. And that's why it really means Carnation Day, even according to Yerushalmi. So it's an interesting thing because it's similar to what they, by the Pope, Lahavdil, when he takes, not Lahavdil, it's about Goyim, he takes a new name when he becomes Pope, right? Because it's like a new birth. So same thing with the king. I think also there's a custom among Goyim that kings very often take new names and they're coronated. I don't know if they do it nowadays, but they used to do things like that. Okay. What? Yeah, that's right. Kings are at a premium. Says Adkan. So there's besides Yom Ginusya, the day of the genius, there's Yom HaLeid of Yom Yisar. Adkan L'Tzibor. Till now, the first Mishnah, first couple Mishnah is talking about public holidays. We come back to the next Mishnah. We'll talk about Yachid, private holidays for Goyim. See, now getting back to what it said, anytime you burn on somebody, that's the death of Avodah Zarah. And the day of celebrating that death is an Avodah Zarah day. See, it says, so we have a kasha, B'Shom Tammuz, it says about one of the righteous kings, I forget which one it is, Chizkiyahu maybe. It says that you're going to die in peace, and the burning places of your forefathers, you will be burnt as well. So we see that even Jews burn, so it says more, even from Jews, it says more, Kinimas Nisan, that's what it means to say, Kol Misa Sheyesh Bo Ishun, for anytime besides the burning, they also do incense, literally smoking. Yesh Ram Avodah Zarah, then there's Avodah Zarah involved. But Shein Bo Yishuv, there is no smoke, there's no incense involved, ain't kind of Avodah Zarah, there's no Avodah Zarah involved. So
that practice is not continued.
the what? Burning? It was only for kings. It wasn't for commoners. They didn't burn for commoners. So we have no kings anymore. We have a premium on kings, like we said. Right? Okay? Yom Tiglachas Kano. Now this is again talking about private individuals. The day he shaves his beard. Ublori so the day he shaves his ponytail. Yom Shalom Minayam, the day he comes out from the sea. Yom Shiatza B'Yisrael, the day he comes out of prison. V'Nachas Shosei Mishaliv no, and a guy who makes a party for his son. Now the next lines the Shabbat's going on the entire Mishnah, just on this last line. Eino Oser Ela Osa, Eino Oser Ela Osa Yom Boso Ish. It's only also that day and that person. Was that going on everything in the prior Mishnah, or is it talking about specifically the Mishnah Beno? Furthermore, the Bavli to add oil to the flames, or whatever it is. It says that the Bavli has also Ish Bilvad, which would sound pretty clearly like it's going on the last case of Mishnah specifically. But again, the Yerushalmi doesn't have that, so it could be that it's all going on all the prior cases in the Mishnah. Okay? Ma also Yom Bilvad. Says more, what is that day? Ma also Yom Bilvad. Sorry. Is it only that day in which, of course, the Samukatan had the Mishnah, the Yerushalmi had the Gersa Bilvad, and the Mishnah wouldn't have asked this question. Others argue. Be that as it may, says the Gemara, Ma'osa Yom Bilvad, or also Yom B'chol Shana, does it mean that specific day in which he's born, that specific day in which he takes haircut, and so on and so forth? That means each every year we go through this calendar of events over again. So says the Gemara, Vatani, prove to you that it's every year. Because it says, Tiglach Tov, Tiglachas Beno Asura. It says, you can't do, this is a Bryce which says you can't, on a day of the guy's haircut or of his son's haircut, and the son's haircut, I should say, also, then, that's a day which is also to do business with him. Now, everybody has their own shot here what the proof is from this, and they're probably all wrong, and I'm the only one who's right. So, what? As usual, right? So, what's the proof from this? So, what I want to tell you is that the proof from this is to be, somehow this Brisa says in a calendar year you have 2 Yom Tovim, possibly Yom Tovim. His birthday, his haircut day, I guess they only got haircuts few and far between, and his son's haircut day. So Yerushalmi wants to prove from this, it must be they celebrated the haircut day every year, not just the first time he got a haircut. Because otherwise, how can he be celebrating his haircut day the same days, the same year his son gets a haircut? Doesn't make any sense. Must be that they do it at the same time, every year. So it says more, no. He grew his hair for 5 years, whatever long it was. And now he's decided he wants to shave it off. So now he's being Megalech at the same time as his son. That's not proof. It says more about time, what do we learn? But doesn't it say, Mishteu, Mishteveno Asura, that both in his chasna and his son's chasna, it's all Asura. Now obviously he's not getting married the same year as his son. Otherwise he wouldn't have a son, right? So therefore, is that not proof that, says Gemara, is it not proof that it's taking place each and every year, and your summer anniversary, and your son is celebrating his chasna? Says more noti poter shegilchu shnein ka'achas. Again, it could be just like it's really just like we said, where they shave both on the same day. We're talking about shenosu nosh mishrosei ka'achas. It wasn't for his father's first wedding; it was his second wedding, but he got married at the same time, the same year as his son. So therefore, there's a mishnah for him and a mishnah for his son in the same calendar year. Says the Gemara, I'm not finished with you. But we learned, it's also to visit him both on his birthday and his son's birthday. How can they have birthdays the same day? Or the same year? Obviously, they're years apart. So it must be that you celebrate your birthday each and every year. Says more, no, tipote, you know what it's about? It's about who lois beikla man but biyoime. He wasn't able to make a birthday on his day he was born. Either he couldn't make it or his parents couldn't make it either. So therefore, couldn't make it to plans on the day Adi Saleh Bar. until he had a son. V'avad kechada, and now he's doing it. I forgot what kechada means. Like one, literally.
One celebration together. No?
Yeah, but I'm not sure he has to make it together with the son. Making the same year, let's call it. In any event, Peter has made Lamaisa. Here's a riot for a well-known stipler. The stipler says that it's the legend named Stipler that once a father came to complain he couldn't find his daughter's shidduch. So the stipler asked him, anybody know the story? You know the story?
No, I think I've heard it.
The stipler asked him, did you make a kiddush when your daughter was born?
Did you make a kiddush what?
When your daughter was born. So he said no. They didn't make kiddush. So stipler told him, go make a kiddush for your daughter. So he said, what are you talking about? I said, no, she was born years ago. What difference does it make now? So I said, nevertheless, go ahead and make her a kiddush. And in shul, right? And sometime that year, she got married, and of course they lived happily ever after. Okay? What? So here you have a riot for the stipler, because here it says if you forget to make your birthday when you're born, so then you can make your birthday later on. So he's like, now this is true, it's about Avodah Zarah here. But that was the minute. If they didn't make a birthday when they were born, they didn't have a birthday, so they make their own birthday later in life. Okay? That's what it says. It's a good riot, no? What? You don't remember you made yourself a kiddush? You don't have to remember. By boys it doesn't matter, because they have a bris, so it's not makif. It's only about girls that's makif. Okay, it says more. Tani. Lo ish, the amazing thing is that he managed to get married anyway. Tani, lo ish lo chavios mechurz chenvani. Now, this is kind of out of left field, talk about the issues of Gnevas Das. If you open barrels for a prospective customer, and you're a wine merchant, so that's going to be a great honor, because once you open the barrels, obviously that exceeds the vinegar accelerates the vinegar process. So therefore, when you open barrels for something you special, it's a great honor. But what about the guy who has a small business and whatever it is, he opens the barrels because small is not relevant. He opens the barrels because he's going to sell that day to a barkeeper. By the barkeeper, the wine goes fast. They're not concerned about vinegar. And then in the meantime, a friend of his comes and he says, I opened these barrels just for you. And of course, it's a blatant lie, right? So Gemara says it's not permitted because that's on the principle of Gnevas Das, right? It says you shouldn't send them barrels which are already sold to a storekeeper. They should call it a ketono ktanas chinam. It's like you are accusing him for naught, meaning the same thing like I said before, that you're giving him the wrong impression. Okay, you're giving an impression from naught. Similarly, a person should not plead with his friend to be allowed to host his friend. B'shah when the friend doesn't want. Well, you shouldn't give him a lot of tikrovas, a lot of close offerings. B'shah when you know that he doesn't want. Ma b'tikrovas, what does it mean b'tikrovas? So I made up my own shot on this also. I don't like what the other perushim say. That rechotz, this comes from brich shmei. You know what it says in brich shmei? Word rechotz, where does it say that? Or nashachitz, or bay, ana rachitz, right? So rachitz means what? You know what rachitz means? What? That would be rely, right? So let's say about rachutz bezave. Zave in Aramaic can mean food. Like the word Hebrew in seidah is translated into Aramaic as zvada, right? So it's say about a case the rechotz bezave achri uchre is already relying on somebody else some other meal, and somebody wants to give him a food and pretend that he prepared this food special for him. And of course, it's a lie. He didn't prepare the food special for him, so that's Gnevas Das to present him with food when you know he has other food, and pretend you want to invite him. Okay? Says my view.
You already have food?
What?
The problem is where you already have food for somebody else and you make him think that it was for him?
Yeah. That's Gnevas Das. That's what it's saying. Okay? Of Yerushalmi, in Yerushalmi, in order to make us more efficient, when the meal was full, they had open houses. And then when the meal was full, he would change something about a cloth he had tied in front of his house. I don't know exactly what he would change, but he would change from right to left. Okay? Tiny, we learn. And they would change it to Yerushalayim. Tiny, B'Yisrael, a city which has both Jewish and non-Jewish inhabitants. If the goyim give the UJA money, right? Gaboim here means the UJA, or the JUF, whatever you want to call it. Goyim mehem, then we collect from the goyim, Israel, and from Jews as well. And when we do the chalukah, we do the distribution. We can sustain poor non-Jews, Israel, and poor Jews at the same time. And we can visit the ill of Goyim, Israel, and of Jews as well. You can console non-Jewish mourners, Israel, and Jewish mourners as well. The Kohen may say Nachem, and you bury even the bodies of the dead non-Jews, and of course the Jews you bury as well. Umachnisin klei Nachem klei Yisrael, and you take in, meaning you salvage. If you see something about to become lost, both the kelim of a Goy and a kelim of Yisrael, because of Darkei Shalom. Girdoy, the people from Girdoy.
Darkei Shalom only apply to the last one or to all of these?
All these are Darkei Shalom. This is all Darkei Shalom. Girdoy, the people from the town of Girdoy. Shalom Rabbi Ami, that's Rabbi Ami. Im Yom Ishter Shal Nachrim Mao. What's the story with a Goyish feast day? Do we have to refrain from work? So Amar Le Rabbi Abba said, Rabbi Ba, but Rabbi Chia say Yom Ishter Shal Nachrim Aser. The day of their non-Jewish holiday is forbidden. It's like Avodah Zarah day. So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Abraham said, Yomali Rabbi Ba. Where Rabbi Ba not to been here and told us not to be matter this. We have the virgin being matter the Avodah Zarah. Bless the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Rabbi Ba, that we was able to distance us from doing business with them. Okay? So the Maraponim says, even though the Ramban had said before that there are cases where you can join together with them, but yeah, we had said before that, a place where you're afraid you didn't do business with them for 3 days, you're going to find other suppliers and stuff like that. So you do business with them, but nevertheless, you don't do service with a smile. And try to have as little to do with them as possible. That's what I'm talking about here, diminishing your contact with the non-Jews even when it's absolutely necessary. Okay? Says more, sheyesh b'avodah zarah. Now, according to most of Farshim, not all of Farshim, according to most of Farshim, it is not talking about the time of siege. It's just a city which has idolaters inside. So, chutzula mutter. So, whatever's outside the city is not osir b'anoah. Hoya chutzula avodah zarah. If outside there was avodah zarah, telcha mutter. Then you're allowed to enter into the city. Okay? Now, where we're talking about entering the city, the Gemara is going to discuss. Mal ilech l'sham bizman shaderech miyuchedes l'osam makom. Can I go through a certain field? So if the derech is unique for uniquely reserved for a certain individual, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I almost fell asleep there. Let me start again doing in the Mishnah. Ir shesh b'avodah zarah, which says avodah zarah. V'chutzla outside avodah zarah. I'm sorry. Ir shesh avodah zarah, which has avodah zarah. Chutzla outside the city is mutter, you're allowed to do business with the goyim outside the city, but not inside the city. Haya Chutzla Avodah Zarah, if there's an Avodah Zarah outside the city, the Torah mutter, you're allowed to do business inside and not outside. Ma'al Chashab is man shaderech miyuchedes ma'al Chashab. Can I go there? So it says Ma'al is man shaderech miyuchedes lo samakom. When the highways are going direct to that place, also it's forbidden because Marasayim people think you're going there, right? V'yochol le'el acher. If the highway can go somewhere else, mutter because it's not Marasayim, because people won't think you're going specifically to that city. People think you're going somewhere else. Okay? Ir sheyesh b'avodah zarah. I see what says about Israel, and there were stores, mutos, which were adorned. B'shem mutos, some which are not adorned. Zayah ma'aseh Beit Shan. There was such a case in Beit Shan. He said, hamutoros, so as the ones which are decorated are forbidden, because obviously they're meant for Avodah Zarah purposes. B'shem mutoros, the ones which are not adorned, mutoros are permitted. Okay? Says Mara, I don't understand. Also, it's outside Mishnah to enter a city. Just because it has one idol inside, I mean, there's no city in the world you'd be allowed to enter, right? In Yerushalmi, even Tel Aviv, there's got to be one idol somewhere in the city, right? What? Yeah, maybe there's a lot of idols. So in any event, says Gemara, Reish Lakish Amar b'Yirishanu. Reish Lakish said it's talking about the time of the marketplace, when people come from far and wide to the city. That's when. Says the Rambam, so what's in, so if that's the case, if people are going far and wide, why can't you say outside the city and not go inside the city? So it says more, very interesting answer. So it says inside the city you're providing benefit to the Avodah Zarah. Why? Because the Avodah Zarah always collects a tax, a sales tax on the purchases and sales. So since it collects the sales tax, you're giving hanoah to Avodah Zarah. Chutz if you sit outside, it's okay. However, shalom mina mechas, because anyway, there's no benefit from this tax. Avodah Zarah. Chutz mina mechas. If, however, outside the city also they enforce the tax laws, so then also it's forbidden to do this even outside the city. Okay, so the bottom line, Rabbi Say, is that according to the Yerushalmi, the issue is it's talking about talking about a marketplace, and it's talking about an issue of meches, that you're going to be aiding and abetting the Avodah Zarah by paying the sales tax. That's the head to nowadays, not to pay sales tax.
I guess I understand. How did it work? How does the sales tax tie in benefit the...
They took the sales tax. The Avodah Zarah took the sales tax.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh. I thought it went to the government or something.
No, the Avodah Zarah. Well, the same thing probably. There's no separation of church and state. Okay? So in Amen, the top of Dalam based Tani, the Sharter, so change the Gillen Friday changes from Vilna Tani, which would be initiating a question to Tani. We learned. Hochenly read. One can go to a marketplace. The local man Misham, one can buy the marketplace, even from the Goyim, Avodim, slaves, Ushvachos, maid servants, Ubehema, and animals, because they're like karkos. And it's also not just Jewish slaves, even non-Jewish slaves. In other words, you can go in marketplace to buy non-Jewish slaves. You bring them thus under the wings or the garments of the Shechina, because it's their advantage. Says Marvatani, I don't understand. Then we learn Lokach Misham. What's that word? Is it close? Okay. Tisorev. Yeah, it does. If you take garments from the Yerid, they got to be burnt. Behema, if you take animals, take care, they have to be uprooted, which is tantamount to killing them. Most, if you take money, yolichem la yama melach. You have to take the money and deposit it in the Dead Sea. Nichaksus tisarev. I understand that you burn the garments. Why? Because you shouldn't have bought it in the Yerid, obviously. I'm gonna have to. Most Yolichim Yamamelach. The might should take the Yamamelach, and that's also because, whatever you did was greedy, whatever. But what about the animal? It says Te'aker should be uprooted, which had them out to killing it. But didn't we learn in the previous price, or the previous this statement, it said, Hochli read, we go to read, Velochim Mehema, but Shvachusu Behema. You can buy from them animals. Yeah, so they're going to have to pay the mechas. See, I didn't really make that clear before. There are three reasons the Marapani gives to potentially aser buying it at the Yerid, at the market. One is because of the issue of Rashi learns that this whole sugi say Yom Edom. It's on the day of the holiday, but it's not much that way in the sugi at all, because we haven't mentioned holidays, right? Just mentions the marketplace. The Rif and the Rambam hold that it's like a public policy thing. You can't enter a place of Avodah Zarah because it arouses suspicions about you about the Avodah Zarah. But Rabbi Tam says this from Batzash from Yerushalmi, that's the issue of the mechas. In other words, you're aiding and abetting the Avodah Zarah by paying the sales tax which goes to the Avodah Zarah, right? So the question is, in what case do we let you get away without aiding and abetting the sales tax? By the way, the Bavli, the Yerushalmi doesn't introduce it explicitly, but the Bavli introduces another potential factor, which is the me'akum. In other words, that this maybe was used or it was bought with money or sold with money, which was for money which was used for Avodah Zarah purposes. So then already that would be more in terms of an issue of mitzvah bar ba'avera, right? In other words, well, it's not mitzvah bar ba'avera because you're not going to do a mitzvah with this. You're just going to do it for optional activity. But the bottom line is that since it came as a result of some sort of avera, so therefore it's forbidden, right? But again, as I said, the Yerushalmi sees to take this issue of Rabbi Tan, that the issue is one of the meches. So it says, how can you take a behemoth? So it says, how can you take? But one place it says you can buy behemoths at the Yerid. One place it says you can't buy behemoths at the Yerid. So it says the Gemara. Tipater, which is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 line down. Tipater Yisrael should be May Yisrael. You know when a fine is imposed? When Yisrael sells a slave to another Yisrael at a fair. Why do we impose a fine? Because they're jerks. How should they have transacted the sale? Outside the fair. At the fair they have to pay an additional tax to the Avodah Zarah. They're a bunch of idiots. So therefore we find them that in that case, if one Yisrael is selling to another Yisrael and they do it at a fair, behemoth tiakar, you have to uproot the animal. Why is that? Because of a fine on them. It's only when a Jew is going to the marketplace and buying animals from a Goyish butcher, then in that case he actually we actually say that it's good for him to take it, and he's doing Mila because he's bringing it up he's bringing it up in Kedusha by a Jew owning it. Second. The Gilin Ephraim says the machlokas between the Bavli and Yerushalmi, actually why when you buy an animal that's okay, even though you can't buy anything else. And he says the Bavli doesn't learn it's because you give it an additional kedusha. I forget what the Bavli learns. But But the Yerushalmi holds that also by an animal there is additional kedusha. The Yerushalmi learns that by buying an animal, you got to keep the animal, because the animal, you diminish the guy by buying an animal. You diminish his fortune. You wouldn't cause him advantage, you cause him disadvantage. So therefore, he's not going to go and thank his God for having caused him advantage. But the Yerushalmi holds, could be causing him advantage, but we'll let you buy the animal anyway, because you're being machlis at kantachas kanfei shechina. Now, of course, not like an Evid where he's actually going to keep mitzvos, but we know an animal owned by a Jew, it does keep Shabbos. So that means it has a higher level of mitzvos, higher level of spirituality, so therefore it's an advantage. Okay? But that's the only way you're buying from a goy. If you're buying from a Jew, we find you for having taken the transaction to the marketplace where there was Avodah Zarah surcharge involved. Okay? Says my Yisrael Shoelech Yerid. A Yisrael who goes to Yerid, to a marketplace, you can buy from him on his way to the Yerid, because you're saving him from bringing stuff to the fair and transgressing the Mechas issue, right? But on his way back, you can't buy anything for him. Because at that point already, there's Avodah Zarah money involved in his merchandise, because he used he traded in the Yerid city, so that's not a good thing. Okay? Says the Gemara, by Goyim, however, bein holchin, bein boyim mutter. Whether on the way there or the way back, it's permissible. And it's an interesting thing, because by Goyim, they cancel their Avodah Zarah. Jews can't cancel Avodah Zarah, but Goyim can cancel Avodah Zarah. So the fact that they traded for Avodah Zarah, paid a mechas Avodah Zarah, doesn't impact upon their objects, and a Jew can still buy it from them. But if a Jew somehow had an Avodah Zarah impact on his object, for example, by paying mechas to the Avodah Zarah, or in order to buy or sell it, then in that case it impacts upon the object, and the object cannot be used for general consumption. Okay? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Ba, Braid Rabbi Chia Bar Ba, B'Shem Yehud said, Imaya pundak muter. If it's in a motel, then you're allowed to do business outside the city, outside the Yerid. Says more Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Zira asked, be Yerid aser upundak muter? If in the marketplace it's aser, in the motel, why is it muter? Says Mardima pragmatio amar Rabbi Yochanan. Now the Ritbaz has a long shot here, but the shot is so just changes pragmatia to pragmutmatia, pragmatuta. And he says, talking about why you allowed to do business in inns, which are outside the immediate area of the Yerid, of the fair, because generally speaking, the people who come to take up lodging in the motel come from elsewhere, so therefore they haven't necessarily been at the Yerid yet, or they're not affiliated with the Yerid, and therefore there's no mechas involved, and that's why it's okay. And Asar above Rabbi Chia Barba, it said, if the motel outside the city, then you can again approach the pragmatuta, the guy in charge, and try and strike a deal. Now here comes a very weird Gemara. Said, Rabbi Avo said the name Rabbi Yochanan, Hechlif behema ba'avodah zarah asura. Now we're assuming it's going on the goy. If the goy switched an animal for avodah zarah, it's aser. Says more, what are you talking about? Chista asked, if you bow down to a live animal, aser, it doesn't make it aser, because Bali Chaim don't become aser because of avodah zarah while they're still alive. So Nesha Hichlif Behema Ba'avodah Zarah Asra, just because then you exchange an animal for Avodah Zarah, it's aser. And I mean, exchange an animal should be not as severe as worshiping it. And if by worshiping you don't aser, so by exchanging you shouldn't aser it either. So it says if you exchange, or the goy exchange an animal for Avodah Zarah. Says more an interesting answer which nobody really understands. I'll tell you what the Ritbah says. Maybe we talk about merchandise which came in before the Yerid. Now, what does it mean merchandise came before the Yerid? It means, according to the Ritbaz, that the earliest sign that the Yerid has begun is when people are switching objects for animals. And it's not that there's any inherent isser in this animal switch for an object of Avodah Zarah by one guy to another guy. No, it's okay. A Jew could buy it theoretically. The problem is that denotes the official beginning of the Yerid. And we said once the Yerid begins, you can't participate because you might come to pay the tax to the Avodah Zarah. So therefore, when does that begin? It begins when people have brought in their wares beforehand, before the Yerid, and they're doing barters with the work there. Okay? Says the Gemara, Tapel Hey Aleph, Aser Bezira, Avo B'Shem said, Hechli Beima Avodah Zarah Asra, Take, that which it says that if you switch an animal for Avodah Zarah, it's forbidden. But pragmatisch nuchasok kadim lirid is about that. That's a merchandise which brings before the Yerid, and that's a formal halachic beginning of the Yerid. Amr Ravo said interesting halacha. Asos chavil Yerid. Jews can't travel together at the Yerid. They can't travel in bunches. So there's a little bit of an issue what exactly the reason is, but the Ritbaz brings up from the Rishonim, Ramban, that if the Jews congregate together and people notice that, so it's a chil Hashem, because people say, "Oh, the Jews are coming en masse to our holiday. It must be they're giving honor to our holiday like we do, and therefore they're going to come to praise their God for giving honor, for the Jews giving honor to their holiday." So it says the Gemara, the Tani came also in a brisa, lo yishal b'mkom, a similar idea. That if a Jew, you shouldn't inquire as to the health of a goy, right? Because that makes a chil Hashem. People, they respect their religion, right? B'makom shumischashev, a place where the guy takes honor by you inquiring after his health, you can't ask after his health. Mitzo lefi darko, if you found them, you interrupt him in the middle of the street. You're allowed to inquire as to his health, but the B'Kayvet Rosh was seriousness, not lightheartedness. Rabbi Chir Bava Shalach Mizbun Le Sandal Mirida Tzor. Rabbi Chir Bava sent that they should buy him a sandal from the fair in Tzor, in Tyre. Only Rabbi Yaakov Barach said, "Ba'ad milochi read. You buy stuff from the read. What about the sales tax?" So he retorted, "You never bought a roll of bread at the read." Even though it's Pasakum, right? But Pasakum sometimes mutter. Armalei said, no, Shanihi, that's different. The Marab Yochanan said, law is true. When the rabbis asked her doing business at the Yerid, they only asked her, Eladovar Hu Chaye Nefesh. They only asked her something which is, which actually is not Chaye Nefesh, I guess. Something which you don't need for your, pre-existence. But something which you need for existence, bread, they never asked you to buy even at the Yerid. In other words, this whole issue is the Rabbanan. So the Heimomar, they said that if you're buying something which is a staple for yourself, then you don't transgress the Isser. Okay? Says the Gemara, the Isser of doing business at the Yerid, this is the Rabbanan. So it says the Gemara, but not, and again it should be, they will only matter stuff which is Chay Nefesh, everything else is also. Rabbi Shimon Yochanan Shimon Yochanan sent the message, Rabbi Shimon Yotzadok can ask Rabbi Shimon Yotzadok, at Bani Klei Ahain, you read it, can you check what's going on in the fair in Tyre? They said, yeah, I could check. So you have Tain Licha and people in the Skranta. So he gave him 2 measures of peppers to use as a bribe for the mayor of the city. Of Ashkoch Ksif Tamani went to the Yerid and found the following legend, I guess it's like a plaque. Ana Diklitianus Malko, I King Diocletianus, or something like that. Shachnis Diocletian. Shachnis Ahen Yerida Ditzor. I devoted. Now there's a whole long discussion here on the bottom of all in the Marechos Aruch. You see, it's very long Marechos Aruch, all about all the Greek gods. So I devoted this Yerid of Tyre, this fair, the Gadye to the mazel of Hercules. Okay? And the Marech Zarach here discusses actually who Hercules was. He was actually immortal, and then they made him into a god. Whole thing. So he devoted this to Hercules. And he springs here on the bottom, Marech Zarach.
Hercules, not Heracles?
What? I think it's, I might be the same person.
I think it's
But Heracles, I think, was mortal, wasn't a god.
Hercules was half and half.
It was half and half?
One side, from one side
Uh-huh.
was the other.
Okay, because it says that he was, it says about Hercules, I believe. And he says the Phoenicians also worshipped him. And Phoenicians, when he says, it's all on the bottom. It says Phoenicians worshipped him because they were merchants. And Hercules was the god of the merchants. Okay, or maybe it's Heracles, I don't know. Me, by us, Nafkamina, right? Hercules, whoever it was. He became the god of the merchants, right? Of the merchants and the merchant people, right? So it says, and the name of the city was Gadis. So it says here, I took this, the Yerida Tzor was, the name is here, I guess, where Hercules' affiliate was Gadis, wherever that was. So he devoted this Yerida Tzor to Gadis, to Hercules, Achi. Now it says here, my brother. It's not clear exactly what it means. My brother. You know what? It seems that he was the brother of all the people who went down to sea and traded. So in any event, and Tamnaya Yami. It's for 8 days. The read is 8 days. So he said from this we deduce from this plaque that the Yerid was the Yerid of Avodah Zarah, because the plaque says it's devoted to this Heracles or Hercules, and that's why it's Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Nachman Shol Rabbi Chanina. He asked Rabbi Chanina, you read Azamah. What about the fair in Gaza? I don't know anybody who go to a fair in Gaza nowadays, but back then it was more peaceful. So, normally he says, Halachta l'tzarmi amecha, did you ever go to Tyre? But he says, he saw v'nachi b'shem shutfim b'kdera. Did you see a Jew and a goy who are partners in pots? They have 2 separate pots on the fire, but they're doing cooking at the same time. And we don't suspect that maybe the goy mixed the Jews kedera and it's bishul akum. The kasha, the question is like this: Who sholei da? He asked him about the Yerid and Aza. Well, Megillah done. The other guy was inspired. The Rebbe China's response of nothing to do with the Yerid. El begin. So why didn't you respond to him in kind? Begin to lace Rebbe China Amra Milav Lo Shomim Yoyme. He never said anything which he didn't hear from his Rebbe his entire life. Begin came. That's why do sholei da. Well, Megillah does. He asked one thing, and the other guy answered, and Rabbi China answered him another thing. Now it's interesting because in the Bavli, the Marapani brings this down. It doesn't really what he says. I don't really like, but the Bavli regards this as being a legitimate answer. That he gave him a legitimate answer on his question. That this was an answer. And it says there, well, it means that, the Isra of Yerid is the Rabbanan, and the human Achoshish is the Rabbanan Bishul Akum, or it could be Nisa Daraisa, maybe he's going to put in the veil, and we see Nine Choshish Nisa Daraisa, that here should give him something which is Takat to Meyakum, which was money of Avodah Zarah, but the Yerushalmi holds he didn't answer the question. So it's interesting, the Bavli holds it was an answer, the Yerushalmi holds it's not an answer. Okay? As Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Bun, Yosef Bun said in Abba Bar Achana Seb Shem Yochanan, Lo Surah Kagon Yerida Shabutna. Guess Butna was the Yerida which is really Avodah Zarah. The Tanya came and learned Shlosh, the Tanya, we learned indeed there's Shlosh Yerid, there are 3 Yerids. You read Asa, you read Akko, you read Yerida Shabutna. The most clear one to Aser is Yerida Butna. Okay? Now, we said in the Mishnah, you can't go to on a road if it goes to a city where there's Avodah Zarah because of Mara sign. Malech L'Sham, can you go that way if you are going, if you're just a wayfarer, right? Says Moraya Achsanoi Aser. If you're just a wayfarer, you can't go on that road because people think you're going to Avodah Zarah. If you're Ben Ir, however, if you live in that city, so people will know you're not going there to worship, but you're going there in order because that's where you live. Mutter, so you can travel on that road. Shayora mutter. And a caravan can go wherever it wants. Nobody thinks the caravan is going specifically to Avodah Zarah place. people know that they're going wherever, whatever best route they can take. Now, also we said in the Mishnah that when the city is adorned, the city which is adorned for the purpose of Avodah Zarah, when it's adorned, the stores which are adorned are forbidden, the stores which are not adorned are permitted. By Memutar is how they adorn the stores. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ba'adas says with myrtle. Rabbi Shimon Lodishim Rabbi Sharkol made him any type of a leaf. Now, actually, it's interesting that the Bavli names are reversed. And the Ram Pascal the Chumrah, like what the Shita attributed to Reish Lakish that any type, but that's because of the Bavli. It's reversed, and he passes like Rabbi Yochanan. So, al dait Rabbi Yochanan, I'll call also any type of adornment is forbidden. Al dait Reish Lakish, eno also olatosefes, only that which you, I'm sorry, everything is also, right? I'm so sorry. Because if you use hadassim, it shows that you want the good fragrance, and you use every hadass you put up there is forbidden. Reish Lakish, however, only the additional amount which is not normally there, because usually they adorn. Just they put more on when it comes to their yotiv. So it's only Yasser El Tosefes, the ones who added on for the yotiv. Hechavid, well, what's the story? Hayalomid Lahotzi Chamisha Kupos. If normally he puts out 5 buckets of adornment, he has lots of fresh flowers in his door. Voti Yasser, and now we put out 10. But it's not hadassim. If you're going to say the issue is the additional amount, so the additional adornment, and it's not just the hadassim and anything, so then the additional amount is also here, because that's the Reish Lakish. If you're going to say, however, mishum praxis, that the issue is the fragrance, and specifically hadas, right, because hadas has a special fragrance. So then that's also, that's also, but everything else is mutter, meaning that in that case, I'm sorry, if you're going to say that specifically hadas is also, so then even if this merchant put out loads and loads of other types of adornment, it's still not also, because it's only hadassim. So according to Rabbi Reish Lakish, the issue is any type of adornment, and therefore if he added additional adornment to his regular adornment, that shows that that's also, you can't do business in that store. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the issue is dafka hadassim because they have a special fragrance. And therefore a store which has adornment above and beyond its regular amount, it doesn't matter. The whole thing is mutter unless it's actually hadassim which he puts on. Okay, we'll stop here for this.